Welcome to the August 20th, 2018 meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Health. The first item on the agenda is public comment. If someone would like to come forward and do so. See there are none. Let's move ahead to item number 2. And these are violations, unfortunately, it's plural. We had more than one tonight, of tobacco sales compliance checks. First one is Station Avenue Convenience, and that's located at 455 Station Ave in South Yarmouth. If someone's here from the store, please come forward and have a seat. And just two things. Just state your name for the record, and I'm going to have you sign in on the clipboard there with your, just to print your name and to sign your name.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's Vishal Shukla. It's owner of the Station Avenue Convenience Store.
Okay, welcome.
Sure. And there was a compliance check by the county, and they found a leaf called Fronto leaf in my store, and that I brought in like prior 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago to just try it. And it's my bad I didn't go to the Board of Health and check what's going on or what it's allowed or not.
Yes.
Under my impression, it was allowed, but what happened was on July 12th, I had the inspection, Board of Health inspection, and Penny Holman, she did the inspection on July 12th, and she was there for almost 2.5 hours. And she went through all the single items.
Right.
And she did okayed everything. There's zero violation. So I was thinking she checked everything out, and that is, she checked that rack also, and there's nothing she mentioned. So I was thinking it's okay to sell. And then 16th of July, Bob Collette, that's from the county,
Yes.
He came in, and he was checking everything, and he says, this is not, you cannot sell this one. I says, a couple days ago, she came in and she checked the whole store, and she was there for 2.5 hours. And she didn't find any violation. And you telling me it's violation, I agree on you. I'm not going to deny it because it's town of Yarmouth. I will, always cooperate with that, or they always cooperate with me. So this is fine. And then a few days after, Mr. Phil stopped by and gave me the violation notice as well as the fine and the first offense. So I was confused. Why like 2.5 hours check-in and nothing was found, and he comes in and he checked, and he was there for 10-15 minutes.
Sure.
And end up he was leaving, and he says, oh, you cannot sell this one. I says, okay. I didn't say, I didn't make any argument. I says, okay, that's fine. So that's what happens, and I have no idea. And I was talking with Mr. Phil in the morning, and he says, what are you going to do with that?
Right.
What are you going to do to prevent that? I says, I'm not going to sell anything. Whatever is there, that's it. I'm not going to introduce any new items, no nothing, because I don't know what's comes and what goes in the list of non-selling and selling products. So that's the only thing I can tell you right now.
Well, perhaps we can help you tonight. Okay.
And
The health department does a lot of inspections. I'm sure they're not perfect. We're all human, and so
absolutely,
it
yeah.
could have been
that's what I'm
missed.
trying to tell the board too. I'm just my mistake. I'm not gonna blame on anybody else. It's my mistake, and help me out.
I think it would be helpful for the people here and those listening at home to know exactly what a blunt wrap is. Director Murphy, can you just give us a description of what it is? So not everyone, I'm sure, knows what a blunt is.
Sure. I'm going to pass out for the board just for your take a look, but it's a tobacco leaf that is used to roll tobacco in. Here's a picture of it. It's sold, I think you have a little, this is not the exact one. This is a typical tobacco leaf. And it's just kind of, they roll and put tobacco in it and call it a blunt wrap. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it looks like.
It's no flavor, no nothing. It's just
Right.
plain.
I'm aware of them, yeah. And the other thing to point out, of course, in our most recent issue here for the sale of tobacco products, it clearly states there's a prohibition of the sale of blunt wraps. No person or entity shall sell or distribute blunt wraps in Yarmouth. So that's pretty straightforward. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Do you have a copy of this, Mr. Shukla? The
I-
regulation?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
Some comments from the board? What do they think?
I just have a point of information. How do you educate your board members, your staff into products coming in, whether it's, flavored tobacco or not? And, do you use the MHAB list to check for product?
That's what I do. I think it will update like every month, those lists. And what I do is I take a printout copy and tell them this is what it is. But mainly, whatever the product comes in, I'll check personally. And if it is okay to sell, I says okay. If it is not, then I says leave it inside, pack it in a totes, and send it back.
Okay, because sometimes what we've heard is that you might get a promotional product that you didn't order, but they deliver it to you, but you'd be the person making a determination whether it goes on the shelf or not?
Right. And what I do is, my company is good with that. They send me a list of promotion or list of the items coming in the future. So I make sure cross out and call them and tell them, do not send this one because this is not allowed in the town. That's what I do.
And I know that MHAB list hasn't been updated in a while, but you do check that list just to
Yes, I
make
do.
sure that you're using the list and where the
Yeah.
product is.
Since, I was talking with Phil, and he always helped me out too, like, whenever it comes, updated, he always tell me, like, make sure we shall check the list. I said, okay. So, yes, I do to check the list, yes.
But in the case of the blunt wraps, that's prohibited by our regulations.
Correct.
So you need
Yes.
to be checking this also.
Yes,
It's
well,
not
that's...
just flavored.
Yeah, the flavors they do have on the checklist.
Right.
On the internet, but I understand the leaf is not, it's prohibited, so I just, like I said, it's my fault. It's,
It's a challenge with the names of dealing with the flavored tobacco, and you should be able to sell new products. If you have a question, call the health department, all right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's difficult for you.
I usually do talk with them, Phil all the time, and, ask him, what's goes, what's not. And I ask him all the time, and this is the first time it's mine.
Right, okay. So there's a fine of $300, was that paid?
No, he has it tonight. He wanted
You
to
do?
discuss it with the
Fine.
board. He's-
Okay.
If the board determines that a fine was warranted.
First offense in 24 months, so,
First offense that he's had at that store.
yeah, no, you've,
We have not had any issues
Chip, yeah.
with since it's been.
so. Board members, what would you like to do? Anyone think there's a violation here?
I move that there was a violation of the regulation of the Town of Yarmouth Board of Health restricting the sale and use of tobacco products, and commend him for no prior violations. Tell him to keep up the good work after this one. Reference the regulations as well as the MAHB list of flavored products, and accept his fine.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Great, any discussion? Seeing there's none, all in favor of what was stated as the motion?
So no fine or fine?
Fine.
Yes, $300,
Except
first
fine.
offense, yes. So, seeing there's no discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, okay, I think we're done with that.
Do you have that tonight, Vishal?
Yeah, I do, right here.
You've done a great job over the years, okay? You really have. Okay, this second,
Sorry, Hillard, who seconded? I'm sorry.
Deborah did. Okay, is someone here from Water Wheel Liquors? They're located at 1323 Route 28 in South Yarmouth. Hi there, welcome. Okay, you just introduce yourself?
Sure,
you.
and I'll sign in. Good evening, my name is Christopher Fazette. I'm an attorney from West Ennis, representing Water Wheel 28, Inc., which is the company that owns Water Wheel Liquors.
Okay.
We've already paid the $300 fee to the Health Department earlier today, just prior to the meeting. As a result of, pursuant to your letter, as a result of the violations, I met with Mr. Lowe, who is the manager of the location, and we took the following procedures. We enacted a policy and procedures regarding tobacco sales, which I provided to you. He immediately took the action to make sure that all tobacco wholesalers have been instructed not to introduce new lines of tobacco products without express permission from the store manager. So I think what happened was that someone who was a tobacco wholesaler came in and put them on the shelf. It didn't consult with him first. Not to absolve him of any responsibility, he should have prevented that from occurring. So now he's instructing them all not to do that without actually consulting with him first. Secondly, any store employees who receive deliveries must keep them in the product stock room for verification before they put them out, which is another way of implementing a control so that he's in charge. And also, he is keeping an up-to-date MAHB flavored product guidance list. In addition, while we were meeting, we also went over the new 21-year-old law concerning the sale of tobacco in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and implemented a policy, which is the balance of the booklet that was provided, providing instructions for employees, how to spot fake IDs, things of that nature, in large part intended to prevent people under the age of 21 from buying tobacco products. In addition, which may be overkill, I found what is probably an instruction guide for you folks on the internet, and I also gave it to him. I figured, why not? Give him the opportunity to know what you're looking for and how to prevent it from occurring. That was also, I also provided a copy of the signed employee list that you requested in that package. So they're serious about trying to, this is a first violation, they're very serious about trying to adhere to your local regulations and the state list. This was a misunderstanding where he just did not stop the wholesaler at the door from coming in and placing the products. They are very intent on preventing that from happening again.
It's interesting. It's the first time we've heard that scenario where actually have wholesalers place items on shelves.
Yeah.
We certainly hear the story where they're delivering products that haven't been ordered, and that's what a lot of the violations have been based upon.
That may have been the scenario, but from how he described it to me was the wholesaler went out there and literally put it out there himself.
Yeah, it's too costly for the store owner for that
Sure.
to happen. That's
Yeah.
terrible.
Absolutely.
Just for the people listening at home, the violation was based upon, looks like 31 packs of products that should not have been on the shelf. That's what I'm reading here on the inspection sheet. So, board members have any comments?
You mentioned the state regulation. He also has a copy of the Yarmouth regulation, correct? Because
Yes,
it's
we printed it
strict.
out. I will make sure he adheres to it.
That he checks that also.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
And if there's a second violation, there's a 7-day suspension, which is, there's a lot there for the store owner to be certainly aware of, as well as a $400 fine. So it's a lot of money involved.
He was quite concerned and approached me in order to assist him with making sure it never happens again. So,
Good.
and he met with all the employees, had them sign but also sat down with them and
Great.
made sure they understood that, and he contacted the wholesalers and made sure they understood that nothing leaves the back room unless he authorizes it.
Mr. Murphy, any comments on it?
No, we've not had any past violations from
Yeah.
the store. They've been, working well with us. Not unfortunate slip-up.
So, board members, how do you want to proceed with this inspection?
We don't have to vote on this.
They've already paid their fine.
They've already
It's
paid
paid?
the fine. The first one was,
It's paid. Great, okay.
I paid it to the woman
Oh,
prior to
fine.
the meeting
Okay.
at the Board of Health.
Perfect, okay.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, it's number 3 here, and that's Becker's Liquors, 55 Route 28, West Yarmouth. Someone here from the store? Just come on up, thank you.
Hi.
Welcome. Hi.
Yes, I'm the owner of the Beckers, and I'm the new owner in this town. So we actually that mistake happened is I was on vacation.
Excuse me one second, just introduce yourself.
My name is Mohammed Shahid Hamid.
Okay.
I'm the owner of the Beckers, and I'm the new in the town because I don't know. I do have a checklist, but I was on a vacation at the same time, and the vendor just sent it in, and my employees just put it on the shelf, and I don't know it's gonna be that stuff is gonna sell and not sell. So that's only what happened. So
Okay.
When did you acquire ownership of the store?
we did in the March,
Of this year?
yeah, this year.
Okay, and the inspection looks like it was July 26, 2018.
Yep.
Is this the first time the
I
health
do have it
department has
first time.
come into the store? Are you aware?
No, I
or-
think it was they was here in April.
April.
I think it was
Mr. Murphy, what happened to that inspection? You know offhand? It should be on the spreadsheet.
I don't have that there. We did talk to the new owner before I'm going in there, going over our tobacco regulations.
Right.
So they're aware of the regulation and flavored tobacco.
So what would be the best way for you not to have this happen again?
no. It was I do have a list, and I was trying to encourage not to put that on the shelf before we checking all the checklist, and that's the only way we can stop. So
Who stocks the shelves for you?
actually, basically, I'm still in a full time, and my assistant, she's there too also, and I just tell her. So
So just the two of you?
2 years.
So she was the one that was in charge when you were on vacation?
Yes.
You should assume there are going to be products delivered to your store that should not be placed on the shelves. It's going to happen.
I also talked to the vendor and make sure that was not going to be shipped to stuff we not selling it.
Okay. Any comments from board members? It's been paid? Not been
I'm
paid?
just going to pay. I have checks.
Yeah, okay.
I do have a check.
What's that?
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You acknowledging a fine of first offense?
Yeah, it's $300, right, first offense, so.
I also was thinking about it. The acid, that's the cigar. I don't know, that's not the flavor cigar. Acid, it was acid.
Yeah, check the list. That's on the list, but check your MHAB list to see what's.
$6.99, and that kind of people smoke and cigar, and that's what it is. It's not, it's a paper, not using the paper stuff like that. I don't know. So
You familiar with the item?
Not that particular one, but I would
Not.
say check the list and then go over it with Phil.
uh,
Because the one that you did sell was on the list. The acid blondie was on the list.
yeah, acid. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like it's Bass River Liquors. They're located at 931 Route 28 in South Yarmouth. Welcome.
My name is Ray Luzon, the owner of Bass River Liquors.
Thank you for signing in there. So this is inspection from July 26, 2018, and according to notes here, 31 packages of Acid Blondie cigars? No,
No,
can't be.
Four.
They're right
Which
here,
one?
if you
I
want to
don't
see
have
what the acid looks like.
Do you have it? I don't have
He's,
the fourth one.
he's got a point. I've been selling these for years. I'm not trying to make an excuse. And there's no way on this cigar where it says it's flavored. I did not have the list, so I was not able to look at it. I have the list now, but this is the cigar. My wholesale to this day says it's not flavored. It is on the list as being a flavored cigar. So it was new to me, and again, not trying to make ignorance is bliss, but I do have the list here now. I will be checking the list, and we're no longer obviously selling the acid cigar.
How did they not have the list? Because all of the
You-
retailers.
You have to take the list off the internet yourself.
Right.
Right,
We don't provide them the list. We-
Okay.
we
Right.
provide
I
them
did
the
not
email.
do that.
I see.
I have it now.
Educational brochure.
I got you, okay. May I open this?
Oh, you can have it. I took them off the shelf once she told me, and I called the wholesaler right up, and they said, that's not a flavored cigar. And then I saw Bruce, and then I was told about the list. I got the list, and it is on there. But,
It's not unusual for the wholesalers or the distributors or the manufacturers to say they're not flavored,
Well,
because they are being increasingly banned, and
okay.
they're still trying to,
I was looking at a flavored cigar like a strawberry or
Right.
something like that.
they've gotten more sophisticated with the names.
Okay.
So that they don't,
Well, we're not a big cigarette seller or a big cigar seller. We sell probably 4 different types of cigars. We bring them in the spring for the golfers, and once they're gone, we don't bring them back in until the following spring. So it's not something that I order them myself. I put them on the shelf myself, and it was just overlooked on my part.
I think distributors and manufacturers make it very confusing. It's difficult, and
It is, when you know, in my mind, I've been there a while, and I hear you can no longer sell flavored cigars, so I start thinking strawberry, vanilla, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. I don't have any of those in my store. So I thought I was clean. And when she came in and found that, I said, acid blondie, I said, that's not a flavored cigar.
Right.
And obviously, it is on the list, so it's considered to be flavored by Massachusetts or by whoever is making this decision.
Well, one of the guidance lists we use is actually from the Massachusetts
Massachusetts,
Association
right,
of Health
right,
Boards, yeah,
right.
as a guidance.
Yes. As I said, I do have it here now.
Good.
And it will be taken care of. It was taken care of when she told me. There's 4 of them. I took them off the shelf, put them in the back
Right.
room, and that's it.
Have any questions of the board or the health
No.
department? No.
I paid the fine.
Okay. Sounds like you run a tight place, all right? So we appreciate that.
Right. It's considered a first offense,
Yeah,
yes,
as these all are.
yeah,
right.
okay.
A little bit of a steep fine for a first offense, but that's fine.
Just for you and for the public, we've just had an incredible spike in the number of violations, and the board did decide to even increase it
Well,
recently.
increased violations bring increased fines.
Fine, yes. Yeah, that's,
300 to 400 to 7 days, it's really getting to be where you're almost, in my situation, I'm almost saying, do I really want to sell cigarettes or cigars? It's right, wrong, or indifferent.
right. The flavored tobacco are very enticing, and we're trying to control if we can, the use of tobacco. And it's just in sense of trying to improve the health of people living in town. And so that's what it's about for us.
Right. The majority, as I said, I have 4 cigars in the store.
Right.
They come in for the spring. The golfers look for them.
Right.
Okay? I don't sell them to people under, okay? They buy them, one-stop shopping, bing, and they're gone.
Right.
Okay? Come September, our sales of cigars just
Right.
off the board. So, I mean, we don't bring them back in before the spring, so. It's an expensive situation.
Yes.
Right. Right.
All right. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and we have another one coming up. Here we go. This is Cumberland Farms. They're located at 1301 Route 28 South Yarmouth. And once again, it's a tobacco sales compliance check. And the inspection was done on August 2nd, 2015. And packages of a product called Copenhagen Southern Blend was found on the shelves. So, could you just introduce yourself and sign in?
Certainly.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jamie Vieira. I'm scheduled on your agenda for a discussion later on about the proposed Cumberland Farms, item 6, I believe, for Station Avenue. I was asked, since I was here, to kind of pinch hit, as it were, to deliver a letter to the board. I will be the first to admit that General Counsel for Cumberland's, the lawyer for Cumberland's handling the matter that this board has with them, could not make it tonight. I guess there were some discussions about trying to, with town council, to remove it off the agenda and let some things materialize through the pending litigation. I don't know anything about the facts and circumstances. I'm not here to present any of that information. I'd like to provide a letter. The overview of their request would be an asking to continue to a meeting where a representative could be available tonight, or alternatively, to continue it beyond a date in September when there's a court determination that they expect from a prior matter that's next on your agenda dealing with that. So I don't want to mislead any of you. I'm kind of here just to hand out a letter, and I really can't answer any questions, but I've also asked to convey the message of asking if you would consider continuing this to another meeting so someone on their behalf could be here. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just hand the letter to the board.
Right.
Mr. Murphy got one emailed today, and I was asked just to deliver one to all of you, and it's from the general counsel. It's not my letter. But
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. I mean, you can't comment on this, but you could you read the letter at least for us? I mean, as you can see, someone comes for each of these violations to represent a business, and this business, Cumberland Farms, did not for tonight. If you can't comment on it.
Well, I can't. All I know is I guess there was communications last week saying someone couldn't make it tonight. Again, I got this about 3 hours ago. Okay, so I just want to. I'll hand you the letter. It's a couple pages long. It'd be easy to read for your end of it. The gist of all of this is looking to push this to another hearing date. Essentially, is what I was asked to convey to you folks.
Okay, the letter looks like it went out to August 8th. Is that correct?
Letter went out August 8th. This letter's dated today.
And that's from the health department to the store on August 8th. So, okay, so you just found out that nobody was coming to this meeting?
I just found out no one was coming, but I think the town was advised no one was coming last week. I know counsel for Cumberland's handling the pending matter spoke with town council about this. I think council discussed amongst themselves what was going to happen tonight, and I think it was decided, I don't want to speak for them, to leave it to you, to ask you if you would consider putting this off to another hearing so someone could be here. That's all. And since I was coming for something else, they said, hey, by the way, while you're there, can you hand in this letter and make this simple request? And that's what I'm doing. So I can't comment on the substance of the violation.
Well, I guess, why don't we settle for having you just read it then, so we can kind of know what the content of the letter is.
Okay, can I hand you one so you can kind of follow along? I'll read it for you. It's 2 pages if you want.
Sure.
All right. Let me just give you one to follow along.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm reading from a letter dated today's date, August 20, 2018. It is signed and written by Matthew T. Durand, Office of General Counsel for Cumberland Farms. It is addressed to the Yarmouth Board of Health, care of Bruce Murphy. Dear Mr. Murphy, and through you to the Board of Health. On behalf of Cumberland Farms, Inc., I, meaning Mr. Duran, am in receipt of Mr. Philip Renaud's, and if I mispronounce his name, I apologize, letter dated August 8, 2018, to Mr. Nassar Boomgayet, and again, I apologize to that gentleman if I said it incorrectly, regarding an inspection of the above-referenced CFI, Cumberland Farms, Inc., retail store and its inventory of Copenhagen Southern Blend smokeless tobacco. That letter, copy enclosed, makes several problematic claims and assertions which I address below in turn. First bullet point, quote, "You are in violation of the Board of Health Tobacco Control Regulations section capital G that prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco," close quote. That is quoted from the August 8th letter. In response, this legal conclusion can only be reached after an appropriate adjudicatory proceeding, period. To my knowledge, no such proceeding has yet occurred in this matter. Absent such proceeding, the unequivocal assertion that CFI has violated the law is unfounded, defamatory, and wholly premature. CFI takes its reputation very seriously and therefore respectfully requests a retraction and public correction of this clearly erroneous claim. At most, the present motion concerns an alleged violation, which CFI vigorously contests for all the reasons argued in a similar matter pending before the Superior Court, period. Next bullet point, quote, "You're hereby ordered to pay a fine of $300, open parentheses, first offense, close parentheses, as required by the Board of Health Tobacco Control Regulation, section capital R, prior to the Board of Health meeting of August 8, 2018, period, close quote." Again, such an order imposing penalties cannot be lawfully enforced, quote, prior to, close quote, an appropriate adjudicatory proceeding. CFI admits neither fault nor liability in this matter and declines to pay the purported fine in the absence of an appropriate adjudicatory proceeding, period. As with the related matter now pending before the Superior Court, CFI contends that the proper avenue for such proceeding is by criminal complaint or by the issuance of a Section 21D non-criminal citation. Neither the Board of Health nor its agents have authority to unilaterally order payment of a fine in this matter, particularly not before CFI has afforded a hearing on the merits of the subject allegation. Third bullet point, quote, "You, our representative, must appear to explain to the board the steps you are taking to prevent flavored tobacco products to be sold from happening in the future," close quote. Whereas CFI admits neither fault nor liability in this matter, and for all the reasons stated above, CFI presently declines to make representatives available for this purpose, period. Furthermore, even if the allegations here were uncontested, CFI questions the board authority to demand such appearance, period. Next, quote, "You will be required to provide the board with your written policies and procedures governing tobacco along with the employee signature form, copy enclosed, period, close quote." CFI objects to the requirement that it provide its written policies and procedures, quote, governing tobacco, close quote, on the grounds that such demand is impermissible, vague, overbroad, ultra vires, and that CFI's internal policies and procedures are proprietary. A copy of the employee signature form is enclosed with this letter as requested. Final bullet point. Quote, "In July 2014, March 2016, February 2017, and June 2017, you were informed by a letter and visit by Health Department personnel of the new Board of Health regulation prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products," close quote. If the alleged violation here were as incontrovertible as portrayed in Mr. Renard's letter, CFI questions why Copenhagen Southern Blend has not previously been identified as a violation during any of these informal visits or during any of the numerous compliance checks conducted during the same period. Moreover, as with the related matter now pending before the Superior Court, merely being informed of the regulation is not determinative of whether a violation has occurred, particularly as it relates to, quote, "the Massachusetts Association of Health Boards Flavored Product Guidance List," close quote, which CFI does not recognize as an authoritative or binding source. CFI respectfully demands a due process hearing before the Board of Health to state its case and present its objections to the alleged violation, which hearing, of course, must be publicly noticed and placed on the agenda with reasonable time to CFI to prepare and respond. CFI expressly reserves all rights and remedies, and nothing herein shall be construed as a waiver or limitation thereof. Sincerely, Cumberland Farms, Inc., Matthew T. Dummard, Office of the General Counsel. Matthew T. Durand, I apologize to him as well. That is the letter, sir.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for reading it. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
So you probably could have a seat if you're not really representing
Did my job.
Cumberland Farms on this. Yes, you're done with your job, I guess.
I'll sign in.
Okay. So, Mr. Murphy, I assume, it's fair to assume a fine hasn't been paid for.
Correct.
Yeah, it's safe to assume that. Okay. So, this is unique. We really haven't had this kind of response tonight. Board members have any comments? I've had to proceed.
I'm looking at the food establishment inspection report showing the violation, and yet the letter is saying that it cannot, there's a conclusion that cannot be reached, but our inspector is saying that the flavored tobacco was on the shelves. Sometimes we miss them, but we don't usually find them when they aren't there. Cumberland Farms certainly knows about the list. They have been in before for a different store. I think this is the first violation for this store,
Correct.
which is a shame because that's a good record to have. However, it is the same company, and they are aware of the list, and we have had dealings with them in this issue. So I think we should go ahead and call it a first violation for the store and impose the fine.
I would just say that I did talk to our town council today on this letter that came in this afternoon, and the town council said that the two options for the board, as we heard tonight from the attorney, is ask for a continuance, or we can proceed. They do not have, if they don't want to have representation, we could still proceed. So it's up to the board's choice of which way you want to proceed.
Well, we have a motion here right now. Does anyone want to second that motion? Okay. Any discussion about this case? Once again, regulations clearly say no person shall sell or distribute or cause to be sold or distributed by any flavored tobacco product at retail. So it seems pretty straightforward. Okay. All in favor of the motion and moving forward with Cumberland Farms paying the $300 fee? Say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Okay, settled. So we'll have to collect the fine. Okay.
We'll send them a letter of the board's finding.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, nobody's here.
Who seconded?
Deborah.
Deborah did.
I need to be louder.
Sorry about that, Deb. Thank you.
Increase volume on seconds? Okay. All right. Finally, number 6, Yarmouth Mini Mart. This is 845 Route 28, Unit 5 in South Yarmouth. It's another tobacco sales compliance check. And that inspection was done on August 9th. And what did we find? Apparently 30 Borkum Riff Bourbon Whiskey Pipe Tobacco is how it's worded for sale to customers. So, thank you for coming in. Just introduce yourself and sign in. Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
did sign in.
Perfect.
Good evening. My name is Nikita Nirola, and unfortunately, the owner of that store, he's out of country right now. He had some family issues, so he flew back Nepal. So I am the manager of that store. And I do handle all those things, and I've heard everything that gentleman said before. And I'm not making any excuses, but there were like couple inspection. I can't remember the date before. It was like in front. I wasn't even hiding anything. It was just in front, and nobody never mentioned that. And I haven't sold anything. I haven't sold it. It was just in there. And what's her name? Penny Coleman. She was there on August 9, and she said that's marked as a flavor one, and I just take it out from the shelf right away that day, and I got the letter from town of Yarmouth, and that's why I'm here. And I do have now checklist for all the flavor cigar and everything.
Do you have any questions about how to conduct the business there? This is a good time to ask. We have the health director here and the board here.
That was the only, I mean, I do not, because I do have all the flavor cigar list now, and I'm the one who handle all those things there. So these things not gonna happen again. I do not have any other flavor thing in there. And I do not have anything to ask.
How many employees do you have?
We are like, especially 2 of them there, but like, yeah, 3 of them in there.
Okay. And how do you educate them about the regulations to see that you're not coming back here with a violation again? What do you do at this?
This is my first, I do not have any record. This is the first violation.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm just curious how you educate your employees, or you have a new employee, what do you do to know that they need to know they shouldn't be selling certain products or put them on the shelf? They need to check IDs.
He did give us that checklist for all the cigar, but we
Okay.
do not hire, he did not hire, we do not have any new employee recently,
Okay.
because we've been working there for like 3 years.
Okay.
So we do know, and that thing, it was just that I wasn't aware of it, and trust me, I do not sell any of those. That was just their one.
Do you also have a copy of the Town of Yarmouth regulations?
Yes, I do have them, yes.
Okay. How does the board feel about this?
Okay.
Yeah, everyone okay? Fine,
Fine.
paid?
No.
We have not been paid.
I have not paid yet,
Yeah,
but I do bring check in
Okay.
tomorrow.
tomorrow,
Yes.
or not today.
Oh,
I
that's
have
You have it with you? We'll take it today.
I
Sa-
just
we'll-
haven't paid that yet, so
We'll save you a trip back.
all right.
I don't want to come back again tomorrow, so I just.
That's fine.
today.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay,
Keep
great.
vigilant.
Okay, third item on the agenda. This is an update. This is,
One second, if they could just bring their checks up now before they leave, the tobacco people can,
okay.
I just want to catch both of you before you leave with your checks. They don't have to sit through the rest of the whole.
No, we're not here to torture you. Mr. Murphy, you're all set? Looks like you're up. So this is the third item here, and this is an updated Cumberland Farms court case versus the Board of Health. And that's a case dealing with flavored tobacco.
Yes, just for this was placed on the agenda at the request of the board from the last meeting, what the status of the Cumberland Farms court case versus the Board of Health on flavored tobacco from their West Yarmouth store. As the board's been aware, it's been twice to Superior Court. However, it was continued from one judge to another. The second judge continued it, and we are going back for a final court case, we hope, on September 11th at 2 p.m. At Superior Court. You have in your packet the Cumberland Farms opposition to the Yarmouth Board of Health regulations and the Yarmouth Board of Health action. You have in your packet the town council's response to Cumberland Farms opposition. And we are prepared to move forward on September 11th. I will be meeting with our town attorney and yourself, Mr. Chairman, prior to that court date, just to review our file, and that would be after Labor Day, but prior to, obviously, September 11th. So we do have a firm date, and I think that was the question of the board the last time we met.
And any of us can be there if we'd like.
I'm going to check on that. I know we can have 2 members there. If we have to have 3, we might have to post it as a meeting. So if the board would like to attend, let me know, and I'll check with council. Maybe we'll post that so we can have full attendance.
Okay. It's a lot of time has gone by. Do you recall the violation date? I mean, this is going on a long time. Any idea what it is? What year?
It's over a year.
Oh, for sure.
It's over probably about a year and a half that it's taken so long to proceed through the court system.
Look forward to getting it resolved. Anyone have any comments about it? I appreciate the update, Mr. Murphy. Okay. That said, let's move on. Item number 4, we have a hearing, and this is a variance request, and that's at 62 Homestead Lane in Yarmouthport. So if someone's here, that's great. Come forward. Have you sign in. Okay. Introduce yourself so the people at home will know who you are.
Hi, my name is Stephen Hawes, representing Diana Sawyer, 62 Homestead Lane. Let me sign in here. And
just 1 second, the gentleman next to you, just introduce yourself.
Sorry, my name is Ross Jolly, and I'm the listing agent for 62 Homestead Lane in Yarmouthport.
Just to let you know, we're having people sign in just so for the minutes we know who's been sitting here.
Sure.
Okay? Thank you. Amy, do you want to just give a brief
Sure.
summary of property?
So this property consists of existing 3-bedroom dwelling, and it had a septic system upgrade to a Title V back in October of 2015. And the system was over-designed back then, and we did have a couple of variances, one being wetland setback between leaching facility and edge of wetland. Our local regs require 100 feet, and it was designed to be 82 feet. And we also had a, depth variance where the leaching facility top is greater than 3 feet below existing grade, and that's because of contours and elevation of the backyard where the system was installed. New owners would like to convert a room that's located on the first floor into a 4th bedroom, so there's not going to be any exterior work done on the house. It's just essentially converting one of the rooms into a legal 4th bedroom. And the reason why they're here tonight is because of the 2 variances that were granted in-house when this was done as a septic upgrade back in 2015. I think the 2 key points is the setback to wetland actually does meet Title V. You're only required to be 50 feet, so it's the local regulation, which requires 100 feet, that's creating the variance. The other thing is we did gain a couple of feet per the as-built when Steve Hawes, the engineer, located the actual location of the system on the plan. You can see it was designed for 82 and he got 85 feet. The other thing is the leaching facility bottom is more than the minimum required 4 feet to be above groundwater. We have actually a considerable greater distance than that. And the reason why I bring that up is in past hearings where we've had wetland variances and groundwater variances where our leaching is being requested to be closer to groundwater, we've established that the separation distance to groundwater is a little bit more crucial because that's where your sewage water is being cleaned up before it gets to groundwater. So in this case, we have ample separation distance between the bottom of the leaching facility and where groundwater is. So.
And the main reason it's in front of the board tonight is what?
The separation to wetland.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right, you're on.
Okay.
What's up?
It's hard to follow that. She pretty much covers all the points. I'll just go over a little bit how we, when we designed the system originally for an upgrade, why what we did with the variances and why we asked for the separation to the wetland variance. And instead of, as you can see, there was room to push the system further away from the wetland on the site. Although what happened is all the area that is further from the wetland is higher ground. So the system would have got deeper and deeper as we moved it further away from the wetland. So what we did was we looked at how far we could, the Title V allows you to vary the 3-foot depth up to 6 feet with the installation of a vent to mitigate that. So what we did was we looked at where we maxed out on that 6-foot depth, and that gave us that 82-foot separation distance. Actually, when the installer put it in, he pushed it a little bit further and did a little bit of regrading so that, you got 85 feet away from the wetland. So that was kind of the reason why. Plus, it was a large stand of, I located all the trees on it, a large stand of beech trees on the upper, uphill from the septic system that we were trying to preserve. They did take down an old, it was a choke cherry tree. To put the system in, but other than that, it basically was laid out in an open area. I don't know if you ever were in the backyard. It looked pretty much like it was, except for that one tree they had to take down. It was already a lawn. There were no other large trees to be taken down, so that went into the consideration of where it was. And as Amy said, we are, I'm showing over 7 feet to the bottom of our test hole, which we didn't observe any groundwater in the test hole for the separation of the bottom of the leaching system. Also, we have a finer sand. It's not a rapid percolating sand like you'd find on the south side, where it's going to be less than 2 minutes an inch. Usually it's 30 seconds an inch of that. This one, we actually did the PERC test on the fine sandy loam sand, and it was around a little over 3 minutes an inch. So it was a much slower PERC rate, which will also help when you consider that we're that a little bit closer to the wetland. So anyways, that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Would be any other options for the system?
The other option would be to put in a whole new system. We'd have to put in a pump to pump it uphill, and it would be, like I say, there's quite a stand of beech trees, quite large. I mean, they're all, I sent some pictures here, that you can show you. So that would be the option, would be to.
Any questions from the board? Great, thanks.
This is the stand of beech trees and
Yeah.
the massive oak that might also have to be removed. And there's your vent right there.
Right.
And again, the house is, physically is not going to change at all. It's the same house, it's not expanding, they're not asking for that. It's just this is kind of an academic where we're just changing the permitted from 3 to 4 bedrooms, so.
Sounds like paperwork in some ways.
Yeah.
Was there a restriction put on it before? Yeah, deed restriction?
No deed restriction.
No, not recorded on the deed, but I would have stamped the original plan, no additions, alterations, without further evaluation.
And the original permit was listed for 3-bedroom.
Yep.
So that's always what rules on that.
Right.
Other questions? Anyone want to make a motion on this? Someone must want to.
I think I will then. I move that we grant the variance for was it 85 feet instead of 100 feet? So there's 15-foot variance as requested.
And to
Okay.
allow the 4th bedroom.
Oh, and to allow the 4th bedroom, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's the main point of this whole thing, and to allow the 4th bedroom.
Perfect. Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Discussion, anyone? I doubt it. Good, all right. So, all in favor of granting the variances, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all 4. It's unanimous. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks for coming in.
Yes, I'll take extras. Oh, thank you. That's great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'll take those. Okay.
Okay, so we have another hearing. This is a variance request, and this is for 130 South Shore Drive in South Yarmouth. Presto, that was quick. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Downcape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the applicant out with what should be a pretty straightforward matter. Do you want me to give a brief presentation, or do you want to have Amy do it first? It's up to you.
Who wants to go first?
Amy.
That's a vote for Amy. You're on.
Okay. Just, yeah, let me go ahead. Thank you. I apologize, I don't have a copy here. This is kind of a similar situation where we have an existing septic system that was put in for an existing 2-bedroom home at 130 South Shore Drive, and that was put in 2004. Relatively small lot, and we did grant variances back when that was originally installed in 2004. Setback variances between the existing foundation and the septic tank. What is being proposed today is the owner is proposing to demo and rebuild the home, a little bit different configuration and placement, but roughly in the same area where the existing home is, and it is going to stay 2 bedrooms, and they're proposing to reuse the existing 2004 Title V system. Again, because of the lot constraints of the size, there are setback variances with this configuration also. The septic tank, which is supposed to be 10 feet from the slab foundation, is 4.2 feet, and the leaching facility to the garage, which currently is detached, is going to be attached to the new dwelling, is 7.1 feet from the slab foundation and is supposed to be 10 feet. Again, same number of bedrooms of what exists there now. What I would consider minor setback variances. I think it's important to note that whenever, and Dan can confirm with me, whenever we go out and look at septic systems when they're being dug up to be replaced, even when they're failed, you very rarely see the leaching has gone 1 to 2 feet beyond the actual leaching facility, the components. Most of it's going down because we have such sandy soils and because gravity is pulling it. So as far as the setback variances that are being requested, there's still, the leaching in the tank are still far enough away from the slab foundation that I would not anticipate having any kind of infiltration towards the foundation.
Thanks, Charlie.
Your turn.
Sure. Again, Dan Ojala from Downcape Engineering. Yes, I would concur with Amy's analysis there. We very rarely see a lot of horizontal a migration of the effluent off of a leaching field. Gravity is pulling down, and we have quite sandy soils. The failure is usually the biomat, and underneath you can find quite a bit of soiled soil, but to the sides, a few feet away, it's invariably white sand. This is, I think, an important distinction. It's very similar to the last application, but perhaps even easier for you to approve because it's not increasing the septic flow. So this, you could certainly look at as maximum feasible compliance where it's not new construction under Title V. That's carefully defined as an increase in septic flow. This is just keeping the same number of bedrooms. So from a Title V perspective, that's an important distinction. I think we feel a reasonable request. We're constrained on this site by it's very compact, and we've got the front yard's setback of 30. You can see we're right against it. Would really love to have a garage that you could physically pull a car into, and so that's a full 7 feet away from the leaching, and it's also above the leaching. So for the effluent to get into the garage, you would have to defy all the rules of physics, leaping out of the ground, and so we're pretty confident that's not going to happen in this instance. So we feel it's a pretty straightforward matter. Again, the big key is there's no increase in flow. But it is a board hearing. You can look at the floor plans where it's a legitimate 2-bedroom house, so it's a very modest design. And I feel that the variances would be warranted. You could make the finding that they would be warranted in this case. Again, the leaching is below the slab, so that's always a comfort that even if it were to get over there, it would have to vertically climb, which it never does, in order to impact anything. So I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
I'm curious, there's a list of 45 abutters, which is pretty large. Have we heard from any of them?
I did hear from one, and her concern was time of construction, I think more than anything else. That was a phone call to me. I did invite her to send me an email, but I didn't get anything from her since that phone call. But like I said, it was more of a concern because of the number of rental properties that are in that neighborhood and not disrupting people's vacation time. And I also had a couple next door who upgraded their septic system recently, so they know the whole process. Yep. Yeah.
We have no concerns with
Just so you're aware of, excuse me, this is all being recorded, and so we can't hear you because there's not a mic in front of you. And certainly, if someone here wants to address the board, please come up and introduce yourself if you'd like to. That's all. Once again, the people listening at home can't hear you if you're out there.
Absolutely. My name is Ron Makovich. My wife and I live at 126 South Shore Drive, and we are abutters to the property. Your question brought that to mind for us. We have no concerns about the septic system variance. I'm hoping that when it comes to the construction of the building, there'll be a similar variance request that we can attend, and at that time, we do have some concerns, but nothing for today.
There's no tags for the boundaries.
My wife has a concern that the survey that was done, there is no really definitive boundaries that we can relate to, so that when the construction does occur, we're assured that it's not going to impact our land.
I can appreciate that. Once again, being the Board of Health, that's not an issue that we can address.
Well,
I could certainly just add, though, Dan from Down Cape, that the new construction will be much further from your lot line than the existing construction. We're pulling it back from the deck right now, it's about 5 feet off. The new house will be 15 feet off, and the deck will be 8 feet off, so it's being pulled back.
That's the concern.
Yeah, and we're pulling it, significantly further from your lot, and there's a fence on the back lot line, but there's not one on the lot line between you two folks. But we'll, certainly can stake it out and so forth. If you do have a concern, the building commissioner would refer to the zoning board if the 8-foot deck setback is a concern. Again, it's considerably a few feet better than it is now, but it doesn't fully meet.
We're asking for the same consideration as the other abutters. There's 15 feet on every other side except ours. So we're looking for the same consideration.
Okay. Well, that would certainly be something you could request at the zoning board or through the building department. And they would certainly listen to you, and they always take abutters' comments into consideration.
Yes. That would be for building, right?
That's be through the building department. Have you seen the plan at all?
Yes, we have.
Okay, so you have a copy of the plan. Okay. So the construction location would be determined by the building department to be in compliance with the proposed plan.
We've been to the building department.
Yeah, the zoning, if the zoning board is involved, they would have to make a finding that what is being proposed is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's there now. But again, that's a zoning determination, not a health determination. You're correct. It's a different board.
I don't know if that's helpful or
Do we have the
not.
opportunity at that time, then?
You're certainly welcome to. The board will listen to all arguments. You can you can appeal it. You can do all kinds of things. If you're concerned about it.
Is it going to the Board of Appeals?
It would appear to me that there is a yard setback issue because it's existing 5 going to 8, and it's outside of the footprint a little bit. I think the building commissioner can, as of right, approve it if it's within the footprint, but because it's outside, it may be a special permit.
Yeah, I guess that's my question, because it might not go to the Board of Appeals or get a notice, so you should talk to the building inspector separately.
Yeah, you can reference this plan, and you can have this copy if you'd like, if you don't have one.
We have a copy, thank you.
But yeah, that would be an issue. But I would just say that generally, if you have a legal pre-existing non-conforming condition and you're making it better, unless there's a very strong reason, the board often will grant those. But he'll certainly listen to your arguments.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other abutters here who'd like to come forward? Okay. Anyone with any comments, or would anybody know how they want to proceed on this?
I was just going to say, Amy, did you talk about when they would install this system? Do we know approximate time, or do we need extra time, or
Do you have a time frame?
they're going to use the same system?
The septic system is the 03 system or 04 system, so that's going to remain. The only thing we'd do is a little bit of plumbing work. In terms of timing, I do not have my finger on the pulse of that, but I would think, obviously there's an appeal period. If we have to go to the zoning board, it'll be another month and a half.
So using the same system, they're using the same system, so there won't be any septic construction work.
Right.
So it'll just be building work.
Yeah, but we'll be a raise and replace with RAZE. We'll tear it down and rebuild. It'll be a new flood zone compliant foundation up high enough so if we get the 100-year flood, it won't impact the building. The flood waters will go in and out harmlessly, and the floor is elevated above that base flood elevation plus 1 foot as you have to now.
Okay.
So, I mean, dealing with the timing is not really that relevant to this board.
No.
Is how I see it. If we're really just rehooking up a system to the new home, that's all we're talking about tonight or addressing tonight. Yeah. You want to make a motion here on the variance? There are 2 of them.
I move that we approve the Title V variances requested for 130 South Shore Drive, South Yarmouth, the new replacement house and the proposed garage, that the distance from the existing septic tank to the proposed dwelling be 4.2 feet rather than 10 feet, and the existing SAS to the proposed garage slab be 7.1 feet rather than 10 feet.
Is this second to that motion?
Second.
That's Deborah. Any discussion? Seeing there's none, all in favor of granting the two variances, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, fine, all right.
Great. Thank
Go
you
to
very
work
much for your
there.
time and consideration.
All right, thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
coming in.
Can I take this from you? Can I take this one from you?
Okay. Okay, we're up to number 6 here, the sixth item. Everyone take a deep breath, and we'll start. And this is a discussion for a variance request at Cumberland Farms, 473 through 487 Station Ave, and that's in South Yarmouth. Director Murphy, could you just kind of give us a briefing on this?
Yes. You have in your packet a little overview that I put together, but in general, the applicant here will give you more detail, but in general, they're looking at the Sunoco gas station on Station Ave, 433, on the corner of Station Ave and Old Townhouse Road. They wish to purchase the underground fuel tanks from that gas station and construct a new Cumberland Farms store with gas station just up the street north of that on the other side of the bike path at 473 and take the tanks at 433 and move them to 473. Currently, new gas stations are not allowed under the town zoning bylaw, so they need to apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a new gas station. Their intention is it a new gas station because they're using the same tanks from one location to the next location. They'll be putting in new tanks that what they'll be mentioning is they feel is closer to state-of-the-art tanks. What they're looking for, as I kind of spelled out in my overall staff brief to you, the Board of Health options. It's on for discussion only tonight. It's not for a decision. It's on for, does the board want to hear this request prior to going to the Board of Appeals? Or does the board want to just send it to the Board of Appeals without Board of Health comments? Or the board could send it to the Water Department consultant to review also.
So this is the first stop.
This is the first stop. I've met with the attorney and their consultants in the preliminary stage, along with preliminary site plan review with other departments, and this question came up. This is probably the big hurdle where it's not allowed currently under zoning. They're hoping to go forward with possible support from the Board of Health.
So the current station was grandfathered?
Correct. And that would remain, but it would not have gas tanks. It would just remain as a current repair station.
Right.
And so forth. They're looking at placing the same gallonage of tanks from one place to the other.
But new tanks?
But new tanks, correct. New state-of-the-art tanks.
So it wouldn't be Sunoco's tanks?
Correct. They would be taken out and removed and brought and hole dug in, and the tanks would be removed off-site. So they're not using the same tanks. They're just using the theoretical gallonage.
Right, yes, it'd be like transferring a license.
Correct.
You know what I mean.
Correct. They're transferring the license. So they would be moving in, and I know the second part of the question that I put on the agenda is, because we know that there's a retail tobacco cap, where would they be getting their license from? And then they would have to determine whether that would come from their other store or a store with a license that they would transfer to that location.
Right.
That's just a separate question, but I know that would have come up by the board, so I wanted to discuss that. The tank question is the...
Okay.
So the board can hear a little discussion, what they propose.
Sure.
As long as he's here, yeah.
Be helpful get an education here a little bit. You can give us a brief summary. Once again, just introduce yourself. You don't have to sign in. We know who you are, but
I've signed in once.
yeah,
Is once enough?
Just state your name in case someone's just tuning in.
Excellent. My name's Jamie Vieira. I'm an attorney from Dennis. I represent Cumberland Farms, as Mr. Murphy indicated. We've had preliminary discussions, and we've had our informal staff review of the proposed project here located on Station Avenue. The essence of what we are trying to do here is really, as you put it out, not really a transfer of the license, but it's kind of an exchange of saying where the Sunoco station is presently is 24,000 gallons of gasoline in 3 8,000-gallon tanks, double-walled tanks, 30-plus years old, perfectly safe, perfectly fine. What we're proposing is to exchange that gallonage at that location and come further north to the location just now to the north of the new bridge that's there, that vacant parcel of land, and install underground fuel storage tanks of the same capacity, 24,000 gallons, but with actual state-of-the-art technology with respect to underground fuel storage tanks. So we're not taking the tanks out of the ground from one area and moving them to the other. We're taking the tanks, theoretically the proposal, take those tanks out of the ground, fill in, that site becomes restricted to no longer sell gas, and transfer, as it were, the gallonage just down the road to this new site. Now, the materials that we've submitted, including my letter of what's there, has a detailed narrative from Mr. Baird, who is here, our engineer, and who could give you, if you wanted, a very, very educational overview of why these state-of-the-art tanks are, in fact, safe, how that they differ from what was state-of-the-art 32 years ago in terms of their detection, what it is that they do for prevention of leaks and notification. That is all different than what was state-of-the-art 25 years ago. So what we have to do, as Mr. Murphy pointed out, is we have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have to present them with our application and request for why, under zoning purposes, in the Aquifer Protection District, we would be able to seek relief from them for this type of transfer. What was recommended is that we come to this board for a public setting and a meeting to educate the board about this, because it is a health issue. Let's face it, we're talking about the preservation of groundwater. But also, as you know, when someone submits an application to the zoning board, many times they ask for comments from other boards. And this is a unique situation we're asking here, and we felt it best to come to you rather than just the blank slate of, well, they've applied to the zoning board, what do you folks think? We would instead come to you and say, look, here's what we are proposing to do, so you know firsthand, fully and completely, answer questions, provide, and asking you to provide, ultimately, a positive recommendation. That is to say, yes, you support. Now, what does that mean for purposes of zoning? It just means that. Yes, you support. I would imagine the zoning board would want to hear what you had to say. Does it mean that we prevail at zoning? No. We still have to get through the hurdle of what zoning requires there. But again, through our meetings with staff, and the suggestion was come here, educate you folks, let you have an opportunity to evaluate what we're doing, and if you are in favor or find it beneficial, what we're doing, to just so note that to the zoning board. It's not binding on them, but it would be important, I think, if I'm on the zoning board, to know what the health board feels about this particular project. So I've outlined a lot of things in my letter, and Mr. Baird has outlined a lot in his and plans, and he's here. We would like that opportunity to present this thoroughly to you so you can hear what has to be said and why, and answer questions. And again, the recommendation we'd be looking for is, yes, we can support this going forward to the zoning board because we've been educated about what is here and why the trade-off is beneficial. I mean, that's really what we're proposing here, is a beneficial trade-off. I mean, I know it's a grandfathered district where you've got the mobile station just a little bit to the north of what's proposed here. You've got the Shell station, you've got the Sunoco station. So you've got gas stations in the area. What we're saying is in this sensitive area, we're looking to enhance the detection and protection for the same 24,000 gallons of gas that I'm not a golfer, but I think it's about a 3-wood away, apparently. Not that far from where the Sunoco station is to where we're proposing. And we would just like you to know that, hear about it, comment on it, and then we would go on our way to the zoning board in that order. That's the upshot of what we're looking to do. We're prepared to present the information to you tonight, but I understand, it's on for discussion purposes. Would you like that presentation another night? We're happy to provide it another night. And that said, though, if there's just a general consensus, now we're not interested in doing this, I'm happy to know that now, too. I'd just like to know. But we would like that opportunity. We think it's a beneficial project. We think that there's some positives that you folks in your germane to public health and safety would want to know and would take benefit and from knowing to then cast a vote to say, yeah, we could support this. Or not, perhaps. I mean, I can't tell you what the outcome's going to be, but I'd like to give you the opportunity to get that information.
Yeah, you're right. We're talking about water quality, I guess, right? I mean, what has the water department said about this? I mean, we haven't heard from them. What have you learned from the water department?
We haven't heard anything from the water department about it. Like, again, we did the informal staff review aspect of it. So we haven't necessarily gone to get their feedback on the matter to date. We were told, come here first to you folks about it. We would then consult similarly with the water department as to what their position on it would be. They may want this, and they are entitled to, and we're happy to provide whoever wants it, the information supporting the underground tanks and the benefits to these tanks versus older tanks. Again, I'm not disparaging anyone who's got older gas tanks. I'm not suggesting that they're dangerous. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that when evaluating anything from 30 years ago versus what's now, technology's changed and it's gotten a lot better. And that's what we're proposing to say is we've got a better mousetrap. And we wanted to give you that information to say, yep, we think that that would be safe in that location, in essence. And why?
Fair enough.
We would do the same with the water department and wherever else we've got to go. And other boards have other things we have to talk about for zoning purposes. But the zoning issue for the underground tanks that involves this board would be, again, the underground protection of drinking water. It's imperative.
Right. So, what do people think? This is a discussion.
I'd like to, so one of the options was to request an opinion from the DPW Water Division consultant, which I think I'd like to hear, and I would like to hear the presentation. I mean, I read it, but I, like twice, and I still don't 100% understand it.
In what order, I guess? Would you want information from the water department before, after?
I mean, I think I'd like to hear the presentation and then see what the water department had to say.
Anyone else? Thoughts on this? What do you think, Charlie?
I don't know. I'm kind of stuck at one spot now, being as we're incapable of knowing anything about tobacco and enforcement. What do we know about gas stations?
Well, we know that they can be a threat to the water supply.
No, I'm talking about this board. I mean, Cumberland Farms has flat out told us that we're incapable of tobacco enforcement or any regulation. Now, as far as that goes, that they know more about it than we do. So, I mean, if that's true, then they know more about gas stations than we do. We don't know, so why would I make a decision on this? That's how I feel about it. We're incapable of tobacco enforcement, and what makes us think anything about gas stations? Huh?
Can I comment on that?
By all means.
All right. First of all, as I said before, I don't want to be shot as the messenger from being here earlier today, and I hope.
Any difference?
No, I understand that. All I'm saying here is I would hope, and I would urge you to kind of compartmentalize these things. So, for instance, the system that is proposed for the septic system is a non-variant system. It is fully permittable. It is fully compliant. However, if it did require a variance, it would have to come here. And so then we would have to look to you to make a decision regardless of whatever someone may think about the tobacco regulation that's out there. That happens all the time with people challenging those things, yet still come back to the board to talk about other things. We don't have to talk about the septic, but in that same vein, if we did, we would be entitled to an opportunity to have a hearing and to have that evaluated without, in some respects, being dealt with or looking at through a lens of, well, there's this other tobacco issue here. I would ask you to for my benefit and the benefit of this project, to compartmentalize that over there, give us an opportunity to present this information to you so you have it, because we are talking about something entirely different. We're not talking about cigarettes. We're talking
about the same company, though.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I understand that. But again, the fact that it's the same company, if it had a septic system, it had to have a septic system. We're talking about an entirely different issue with relating to somebody taking a position of how they feel about a regulation. I'm not involved in that. I'm here to say this is a project we'd like to do. We want to educate you folks about an entirely different subject, which is the protection of groundwater, and why we think that what we have is a benefit for that purpose on an entirely different subject, regardless of who's doing it. If it was Shell or Exxon or whomever, the argument would be the same. So I would urge you to, if you're going to give us the consideration, to please do so. If not, don't base it, please, on the fact that that same company is exercising a right to feel about a different subject differently. That's all.
This is not, though, within our purview.
No, I understand. This is not something where we're asking you to grant us relief, as it were. It's more, and this was the suggestion through our meeting with staff on this, was
When you say staff, I'm not sure.
we had our informal site plan review meeting, and we met with the health agent, we met with the building commissioner, we met with the planning department, we've met with the fire department about it, we
So
had the historical review.
Yarmouth Town staff.
Yarmouth Town staff. My apologies for not being clear, Yarmouth staff. And it was felt to be of a benefit. Again, like I said before, normally you get, sometimes an application comes into zoning, and what does the health department think about it?
Right, right.
This is a unique situation. We're dealing with a significant issue of protection of groundwater, and we're talking about petroleum. And it was felt like the best way to get the message across to support our position was to come to you directly and provide you with information about it, rather than the cold review of a plan maybe a week to 10 days before a zoning hearing. But instead, it's important to us. We know it's important to you. We wanted to come in and we wanted to convey that message to you. And then you can say, look, we think it's a great idea. We think it's a bad idea. That's all. It's not binding on them, but it would be a benefit, I think, because they're going to want to know. So we figured, let's come in and tell you about it.
So you were at this informal staff review?
Yes.
Okay, and so it was suggested that this come to us?
They requested to come to the hearing.
Okay.
Yes. And just on that subject, though, the letter from Web Engineering that came in last week, it came in after the packet was put up, and I gave you a copy, so they have not seen that letter.
There is one other. When we met with Mr. Murphy and another agent of his office, there were some further details that they wanted us to provide about certain safety mechanisms. Mr. Baird presented that information in a letter. However, it got here too late to get into your packet. So when we have the discussion, I assume the next time, if we're going to do that, I don't want to be presumptive, but if we're going to do that, there'd be one more item in your packet from Mr. Baird of information explaining the safety measures, and then he will come in, and I've heard him speak on this several times, and the first time, I don't know anything about this stuff. He's very informative. He's very helpful in helping understand what we're talking about here, and we'd like that opportunity.
The tanks themselves are permitted through the fire department. That's why fire department was at the state. They issue the tank installation that follows Massachusetts Fire Code. The licensure for the tanks go to the Board of Selectmen. So there's other boards that have also have comments on it. They can just go to the water department to get their support and go to Board of Appeals. To me, that's going to be a big key in this, what their water consultant says. So they could just go there and get that support instead of board support. They requested to come before the board. So that's why they're here. And that's the question tonight is, what would you like to do?
So what is the date for your board meeting, the Board of Appeals, is it?
Well, we haven't selected a date with them yet because, again, we didn't know what the timing of coming here would be. So we didn't want to get caught in putting in an application and then, you know, continue it and continue it and continue it. That's not fair to abutters. That's not fair to people for us to present an application, have a piece of information not settled, quote unquote, and then push meetings off. It's better to kind of compartmentalize, going back to that, one thing done, get another thing done, then make our application and presentation.
Had other boards made formal statements on this in response? No, no one
We're
has.
first.
First stop.
First. For information only, right.
Right.
It's the zoning board of appeals that makes the final decision,
For sure.
which is not allowed use right now in town.
Right. But they haven't actually brought it before them yet.
That's right.
Correct.
We haven't filed it yet. We've taken it one step at a time.
Well, I'd certainly like to hear from the water department. I mean, we talk about water quality. I don't know how anyone else feels.
Well, they can go from the water department right to the board of appeals without coming back to us also.
That's up to them,
Sure.
but
I mean, it's the boards.
Like the attorney said, sometimes the boards will send it back to us to get our opinion on it, but it doesn't always happen if it's not
Correct.
something
Sometimes they
we
don't.
have any authority over.
any thoughts of how to proceed here? The only decision we need to make as a board would be whether to put a hearing on the agenda, right, about this. And all we're doing is discussing it, so that would be a hearing, making that decision, and we prefer to get information from other boards or departments and just wait
Just
for,
straightly defer to the board of appeals.
so we could do that and have them
I
make
think that's the
decision.
options that were laid out in my staff letter.
So just different pathways. What do people want to do?
So when does it go to the selectmen for their issue?
After the board of appeals.
After the Board of
The
Appeals.
selectmen issuing of the underground fuel storage license is usually the last
Okay.
item. You have all of your other things in place from zoning, planning, whatever you may need.
Right.
Then your application is then submitted one more time to the Board of Selectmen. It is required that the Board of Selectmen get a sign-off from the fire department as part of that process, and then there's a public hearing in front of the selectmen regarding that underground fuel storage license. And that's the last step.
Right. So do people want to wait for more information from other departments, boards, or not?
I'd like to hear from the DPW water consultant, but at this time, I do not care to schedule a hearing, would not care to schedule a hearing. But I would like to hear from them what their opinion is on adding a new business to the Aquifer Protection District and one that's prohibited at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big decision. We're talking a lot of volume of gas, just in sense of the amount of business on Station Ave. It's a lot. It's a lot to consider. Yeah, I'd like to hear from the water department. So what's the best way to proceed with that? It really is dependent upon you going to the water department, I guess.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I think so.
The applicant too.
Sure, yeah.
The applicants.
So, someone willing to make that kind of motion? Or do we want to proceed in that direction? That's really what we're talking about tonight.
So if I understand correctly, and I apologize,
No problem.
I'm certainly happy to reach out to DPW Water Consultant, have them issue an opinion, then present that opinion back to you folks with a request to be placed on the agenda. Would that, then you can decide if you want to put us on or not, or I'm just trying to figure out what step, like if I get their opinion and they come to you and then you schedule a hearing, or can I get the opinion and then ask, if I get it, to then be placed on the agenda? I'm just trying to kind of move the
Certainly
process
you want to get
along.
the information first, so logistically, what's the best way to do that?
Get the information, get it out to us first, and.
Sure.
We can make a decision with that information. We don't-
Right, and the board can
I would
make-
do it separately, that's my feeling, is, and then we can decide what to do.
Then the board can look at it, or just defer the whole decision to
Whatever the board
Board
wants
of
to do.
Appeals, or you might have a concern on it.
But that would be a crucial piece of information
Yes.
for me, and I'm sure.
And that would save you from having to have your folks in the wings, you know, on a particular night, and we decide we don't want to have a hearing anymore.
Understood.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
not to have everyone come in and find out it's not happening. It's-
Yeah.
It's just a waste of your time if that were to occur.
Understood.
All right, so we need a motion
I
stating.
move that we request Attorney Vieira to get an opinion from the town's DPW Water Division consultant regarding the placement of a new gas station in the Aquifer Protection District.
Clearly stated, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous also. Okay, thank
Okay,
you for
well,
coming in.
thank you very much.
All right, see if you get us that information.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, this one should be fairly simple. Mr. Murphy, number 7 says there's an update on plastic bag. We all have that in our packet. Hopefully everyone read it.
There was a sign on the high school
Okay, so,
logo saying plastic bag ban goes into effect August.
okay, so I can take Mr. Murphy's place on this one. Yeah, the armored bag ban is to take effect on August 30th. It's taken us quite some time, but it's going to happen, which is great.
Correct.
Well stated.
Correct.
Is there anything else you wanted to say about this item?
Well, the Health Department has been notifying all the businesses that are licensed by the Health Department, retail stores, restaurants. We've been doing that for the past several months, giving them a written handout about the plastic bag, so everybody has it. We've been writing it on their inspection forms in retail, so they all know they have to have it. The Chamber of Commerce has posted it on their site and notified all their members. And the Recycle Committee is also reaching out to other businesses in town. It's been up on the school sign, up on the high school sign, plastic bag takes effect. It's been up on the recreation sign at the recreation location at 28 and Higgins Grove Road. So the notice has been out there. We've had a couple calls the last week or so from clarification that were forwarded to the Recycle Committee.
That's where it should go.
Because it's hard to reach everybody. Every store, everybody, every nonprofit.
But it's been going on for quite some time.
You are not the only one.
Right.
Yeah, this has
Yes.
been happening.
Yes, it's been happening, but not everybody sees the information. But I'd only say there was a couple, so I think we're in very good shape. We haven't had anybody already apply for a variance for a limited, short-term use.
Good.
So we'll know more at our next meeting.
And get their reusable bags ready.
That's correct.
Support this.
The Stop and Shop is providing free reusable bags now that meet the
husband got one.
4-mil medium, 4 mils. They're passing them out for free for the last couple weeks anyway, so they're still available there, and you can also get your own.
About
Recycle.
recycling old bags, are they still taking them?
I wondered, are they still
The
going to
old-
take?
That I don't know.
Because I'm sure there's people that still have tons of them, they need
Yeah.
them somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Would you feel comfortable going on to the next item?
Sure.
This is update on West Nile virus.
West Niles, I did notify the board last week, August 9th, was the first round of testing Cape-wide through the Cape Cod mosquito program, where they found some positive mosquitoes for West Nile virus at Falmouth, Bourne, Barnstable, and Yarmouth. So it's a precaution that we've put out. And we talked to the newspaper, and there was an article in the newspaper that quoted in saying, you need to take precautions, and I guess this is where I'm speaking to people at home, to make sure there's no standing water on the property, make sure everything's drained. With all this rain, it doesn't take long for mosquitoes to produce. So whether that's empty flower pots, tires, bird baths. There's a lot of little things that could contain water, so if they could go out and check them, that would be helpful. We are working with Cape Cod Mosquito Control as they go out into some low swampy areas in town, which they usually do each year. We're looking at that, so remain vigilant. They do weekly testing. Just because we didn't have anything come positive back this week does not mean the mosquitoes are still not carrying that in town.
And of course, the mosquitoes are more active during dusk and dawn, so people can keep that in mind when they're doing work around their yards.
Right.
And certainly there's some repellents that are available that people could use on their clothes to protect them from mosquitoes.
Correct, and you have some information in your packet about the testing and the chart of testing that Amy was able to put together for the board.
And the West Nile virus this is a virus that's carried by mosquitoes and causes an infectious disease.
Correct.
People who aren't aware of that. Anything else on West Nile? We're done. Good. Moving along. Okay. Item number 9 is approval of the minutes. That was a meeting from July 23rd. Minutes should have been in your packets. I'm sure everyone reviewed them in detail. Does anyone have any additions, deletions, edits, or anything? They're really well done.
Very thorough.
Very well done.
Yes,
It's
Amy did a
novel here.
terrific job
Thank
on
you.
that.
In all seriousness, thank you.
I move that we approve the Board of Health minutes from July 23rd, 2018.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All in favor of passing the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Amy.
With a kudo to Amy
We'll
for
keep
putting them
you.
together.
Yeah. Okay. old
Even
business-
as trying to keep them as brief as we can, it's
I know,
That's what you
hard.
said.
it's hard for somebody that's so detailed.
That's the hard part is.
And the person who does the minutes also, you're entitled to a new parking spot. Okay.
Awesome.
Your choice.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, old and new business. Let's move it.
On new business, looking at upcoming agendas, there is no septic pending right now. We've discussed with Amy, there's nothing pending that we see out here. We do have one, but that's probably at least a month away. We're raise and replace. It's still working its way through conservation.
Okay.
So we're not expecting to see that for a month or so. We're going to see how obviously the plastic bag ban goes through, so we'll be able to give an update on that. Based on that information and that we're still short of staff, preparing meetings and so forth, I would like to propose that we just move into October for our next meeting. And then I will just update the board on that time, because I know some of you might not be able, are available in October also.
One of the board members mentioned November.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
thought you
so-
said November.
Yeah, so, all right, why don't we go to October? So
And
what
that's a
date-
possibility, too.
Yes. So what date?
It will depend on the
Mr. Murphy, I was joking.
court cases.
Yes, of course. So October what? What day do we want to?
We're not sure, we're not sure yet. The two dates that we usually meet are the 1st and 15th.
Right.
But I know some of the board members might not make the 15th, so depending how things go, it could jump to.
What's happening on the 15th?
Huh?
What's happening on the
Well, we're not going to have all the board members here.
Okay.
Nothing in particular. Well, we have a holiday, too, in October, don't we?
It's around there.
Yeah, it's,
Columbus Day?
Columbus Day.
yeah, that's not till the, like, at night. I'm away for that.
Big holiday, September 4th.
So you're not prepared to set a date yet?
No,
Okay,
I would
very
just
good.
like to
Very big deal.
to be determined.
While we're on old new business, you mentioned shorthanded. Where are we in the hiring process here for the
We
health
hope to
department?
be posting this week.
Good.
Good, that's me.
That's great.
It's just my recycling.
And any thoughts on why we're seeing so many violations in tobacco?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, we've talked to everybody. It's interesting that all the violations are first-time offenders. We haven't hit any second time, so I mean, the notice is out there. It's disappointing that at least a third of our 30 establishments have been in violation.
Right.
We have passed out all the education to them, spend considerable time with each store, as you can hear, and our county inspector is now going around for her last, she's only here 2 weeks, and that she'll do a last check, quick check, just make sure that people are educated.
Okay.
Do a quick check.
Relatively.
Any other old new business?
Yes.
Can I bring something up? I didn't realize we weren't going to have a September meeting. Remember last spring, we had the presentation on ticks by Larry Dapsis from Barnstable County Court, and we were hoping to do a tick postcard mailer to all Yarmouth residents. Well, the funding that we were going to use, which came from Cape Cod Healthcare, ran out, and we weren't able to do that. Well, I had applied for a mini grant from Cape Cod Healthcare, which we received, and I am in the process of organizing the tick postcard mailer, which we are planning on mailing out at the end of September, per advice of Larry Dapsis, because that's when the second emerging is going to happen with the ticks. So what I'll do is I'll just have the postcard that we're going to be doing the mailing on at the October meeting, so you'll have that, but you should be getting them in the mail, too.
Thank
Because
you
it's
for
going
the
to all-
effort. That's great.
All
Appreciate it.
residents and post office boxes, so.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that was a great grant. We've been trying to work with Cape Cod Hospital off and on for a while on a
Right.
particular health issue, and Amy was able to pull that grant together. It was something that was very close. We almost obtained last year and then reapplied for it this year. So the hospital tries to work regional, but we kind of asked them if they could do this locally.
That's why Amy wins awards.
Anything else?
So we'll look at maybe a press conference or something. We'll do some type of release with the newspaper, so it will get publicity. And if we need to do a one-item meeting, I'll talk to you.
Sure. Okay.
But we'll work on at least a press release.
You're okay now? Old and
Very
new?
good. No.
Okay, something everyone's been waiting for, that's probably item number 11, if you want to address that. That's an adjournment, it looks like. Does anyone want to make a motion to do so?
I move we adjourn.
Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.